O'clock, we better call the meeting to order. We'll do a moment of silence and have an invocation and do the pledge. You like to lead us in the pledge? Sure. All right, anybody want to do the invocation, Chris?
Go ahead, you can do it,
All right. All right. The moment of silence, please. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for all our many blessings. Thank you for ability to assemble here and discuss county business. We ask your blessings on our efforts and on the county personnel, our state and our cities and our country. Just overall, keep us safe and bless our efforts today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Let's look at the minutes from last time. May the 12th meeting. Pretty short and sweet. Motion to approve the minutes. We have a motion to approve the minutes and a second. I'll second. And all those in favor of accepting the minutes, raise your hand. All right, that's unanimous. No public comments. First item is the agricultural signage. I did speak to Mr. Gilbert. He suggested that, well, do y'all have any suggestions? You had homework to look at, maybe bring us some suggestions for the wording of the agricultural welcome sign. Does anybody have any ideas or suggestions?
Did we have a work group for that or no?
We
Did I have to look at past minutes?
We had a committee for
I thought that
something. What was that?
we had a committee for the letter, but we had already done the letter. But I thought that you and Charlie were gonna work with somebody about getting with the FFA.
Yeah.
Yes, at West Oak and Seneca. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, I recall, yeah, Mr. Charlie can't be here tonight, so I don't have anything to report on that. That was in reference to the students designing some kind of sign,
With the wording, yes.
and we have to adhere to the state and county protocols as far as signage. So Mr. Shirley's been valuable on that, and I think he said it's limited to 40 characters.
He gave us the handouts. I don't have it in front of me now, but I think we've given that to everybody already, distributed. The size of the signs, the size of the letters, and you basically make it fit with the spacing and the total number of symbols you can add in there.
Right. If it is 40, if we are limited to 40 characters, I have a suggestion. I went over it with Mr. Gilbert, and he and I, this is his suggestion, so we agreed on it. Sounded good. It's short. It's 40 characters. But it does use the impact word. It's something to the effect, agribusiness annual input, and then the dollar figure, $192,869. That's it. Agribusiness annual input, colon, and then the dollar figure. And it is short, but you also have to think about what people can read when they're passing by, so short is good. If it's limited to 40 characters, we can go that way. If we can add a little bit more, we can embellish a little bit, but
I think shorter and sweet to the point is probably gonna get it's better because you're driving 55 miles an hour by it. That's about all you're gonna see.
I remember a new electronic sign that went up at a place in Seneca a few years ago, and it was very nice, and it gave all the instructions of all the things that was going on at that institution, but you didn't have time to read it. So this is just a short and sweet. Agribusiness annual input, 192,869 million. So that is a suggestion. We can,
Now, is that, are we gonna be able to get more than one sign if we go like under the farm center, or if we go under, did y'all discuss that? No.
no, I need more, I need to talk to Mr. Shirley about the details of that. I'm not the sign expert, but we can continue the discussion on that if you'd like. Next time, we'll find out more information with Charlie and Mr. Phil.
You spoke with Mr. Gilbert, you said, and that was the figure that, like, that's the definitive,
Well, that's the figure from the 22 census that we already had, and we knew.
right?
And he did his research, he did, the state ag census, and then he looked at the USDA census, and that's what it all came to, so it's the same number.
So with that said, you said agribusiness, or you gonna say agribusiness impact, or the agricultural impact, or impacting agricultural impacting Oconee County 192 point whatever? I mean, I guess that's what my question is.
Yeah, we can put in Oconee County if we have more letters available, but
Well,
if
we
it's
don't have to
limited.
put Oconee County, I guess, really I was asking agricultural impact or ag business impact, cause they're,
I think it would have to be ag business to get a good number, right? It encompasses a little bit more.
well, no, that's just our agricultural sales, the 192 point, whatever's the ag
It wouldn't
sales.
include agritourism or anything else like that?
No, that's
It's
our
just products sold, yeah,
Products sold.
yeah.
So if you wanted it more, that was what I was asking for, if you want the number higher,
Yeah,
you go products sold plus agritourism, all the side, everything else that impacts agricultural products, agribusiness.
What would that be? Like, if you were looking for those numbers, it would be
It could-
agritourism is one of them. That's not
It
products
could
sold.
be implements, it could be implements, equipment, it could be a lot of things that would be a higher number than the 192 point, I think it's 8-something million annually. But like one tractor, you're talking 100, or combine, 250,000, 300, I mean,
Do we wanna focus on
that's why I asked if it was agribusiness, if it's.
farms or, cause that goes more into, what would that be?
Well, product,
Storefront, I
yeah.
guess, yeah.
Product
It's all
sold
of it.
is just the
Yeah.
farm, what we sold, like,
From the farm.
from the farm. Beef, poultry, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm not sure how to capture the tourism numbers, agritourism numbers.
Those should be available under, the South Carolina Department of Agriculture, because they do that impact or those sales, annually, I thought, as well. Because they have a whole department devoted to agritourism.
Okay, well, we can go back and look through that and see if we can find the tourism component too.
I mean, if you really look at those numbers, you're looking at anybody that stopped by McDonald's that day and bought a hamburger while they were going to a show at the farm center.
Really?
I mean, because that's all an agricultural impact to economic
Development.
development in the county. So, I mean,
That's a,
you're looking at a pretty hard figure to come up with, but somebody in the economic development area should be able to come up with that. And, I mean, they routinely throw numbers out, how accurate they are is a different story, but how accurate are any of the numbers? So
So further research is needed, I gather.
it just depends on what we want to put on there. I mean,
I mean, are you looking for the total impact number, or what are you looking for?
Yeah, justifiable, big number.
The number you have seems like the cleanest number
It
to
is,
get.
because it's
Yeah.
product sold.
and it's probably the most accurate number that we can.
And
Put
if
figures to it.
somebody fact checked us, they would go to the USDA site and it would pop
Yeah.
up
Yeah,
that we had 192.8 whatever
that's a
million
lot.
in sales annually.
Mhm.
And I think, that's why I just said agricultural, that's why I asked if it was agricultural or ag business. But simple would be economic impact, contributing whatever to agricultural impact.
The economic impact would be different though.
Yeah,
It would
it
be
would.
that more unclear number. So
Larger
the-
number than the 192.
So the agribusiness annual input,
Input,
that's pretty straightforward.
sales,
Or agribusiness annual, yeah, would it be input or
Impact.
contributes or impact?
impact would be more, I think. That number would be a lot more. I think maybe contributing to agricultural, you know, I mean, it is sales, contributing to an annual revenue.
But you're right, we want something that if people look, they can tell we're, accurate.
And that is our sales, which is revenue, but it's how you want to word it.
The purpose of so it's going under another sign, right? It's an attachment?
We think, maybe.
Or is it separate?
I brought that up to hoping it would save money, yeah.
And that he was talking about we could put them, out at on 11, is that what he said?
I think he said we could get one, we have to fit certain categories, correct?
Yep.
So I think the issue's going to be, Tessa, is if we say that we are wanting it to be, I asked if it could be part of the farm center, because I was thinking we could get more.
Right, for the sign that's pointing to the farm center.
Right.
And then potentially it could just say agribusiness contributes 192, whatever,
1.8.
annually. More of a, maybe agribusiness contributes, sounds more like it's supporting the county more than agribusiness annual input. That sounds a little more cold, I guess.
And it's not, and it's input, it's not impact, because that would be
Right.
the more
That would be a bigger number.
larger number. So you don't want to use impact, because if some business person's reading it, and they say, well, that's not that much. I mean, it's still a lot, but when you're figuring economic impact, you want that higher number.
All right, well, let's look at it some more and y'all do some research on it
But
and see.
that's good, what you've got.
We fit it into 40 characters if that was the criteria, but yeah, I mentioned that we wanted something that fits in with the signage, that looks good, that's not crazy expensive, but so if we can attach to a sign, and then he mentioned rules about distance from the place you're advertising, like the farm center, so that's tied in there too, so. All right, well, we'll come back to it. More research is required, so we'll come back to that and discuss it further. All right, next thing is Ms. Biggs at the Farm Center. And I apologize for not being there, but we were out of town and it sounded like it came together pretty well. And we had a few members there, and if someone would like to talk about it, that'd be good.
You participated quite a bit in the discussion.
So who all do we know that was there?
So from our group, Chris was there, David McMahon, and Gary Wilson.
Okay,
Was
good.
there. Andy came for, Charlie, Tessa, and myself. So we had a really good, I think for the people that were there, we had a good representation. What was your take, Chris?
I think it was very nice of Miss Biggs to be there and at least come and listen.
She worked us into
Yeah,
our schedule.
There was some good points brought up to her to take back to, and I think the biggest thing to take away was she's at the DC level, she's at the federal level. And her not being on any of the ag committees in the House limits a lot of what she can do as far as bringing up. But
Right.
she seemed very supportive.
I think she was very much listening to what everyone had to say. There was quite a few issues that came up, like always do come up, that are really either local county level issues or state issues. She is on Homeland, and they talked a lot about EPA and DEF and security, food security and that type of thing. And I think she understands that very well, being in her position, knowing her background and family. She understands more of what we're dealing with food insecurities and those types of things than a lot may realize. So I think she was listening, but like Chris said, she's not on the ag committee, even though she has staff that, they attend those briefings, so they bring her back information, and she was willing to take information back to them to get questions answered. I will give her credit, for, I think there was a couple of producers there. A couple of them brought up a couple of things about not getting some reimbursements and those types of things. And she made the people that needed to be made aware on the federal level with some of the reimbursements aware. And I think that, I haven't heard back, but I think that they were working on getting those issues resolved. And I think that's key for us, is the communication piece, trying to make sure that we get what our farmers need. You know, if they've put in for something for FSA, USDA, and it's an upgrade or something, a lot of them right now, I think, are doing the energy upgrades for a lot of the poultry houses through NRCS, and they have to do the upgrades and then wait for reimbursement. And I think if those reimbursements aren't coming, the fact that she is willing to have a staffer to reach out to see what's going on and get that resolved for those producers, I think that's key. And my understanding is a lot of that has been happening. I haven't talked to one of them this week, but I know last week they were pleased with what they were hearing back. I mean, things don't, it's government, just like here. It doesn't happen with you snapping your fingers, but the fact that they're willing to make the phone calls, I think, is huge.
How was it, overall attendance?
Tessa?
I think it could have been better. I think more farmers could have come out and expressed their concerns.
I would like to have seen it attended better with, I mean, we were there, but we serve as the county's ag advisory. The Farm Center Board was there, I believe. But outside of that, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 poultry producers outside of who's not on a board.
And in defense to it, she had just spoken to the Oconee Farm Bureau the week prior.
Right.
So she probably captured a lot of those guys then. So a lot of them probably had already talked to her at one time. Yes, I thought it was a little underwhelming as far as the response.
Right. I knew she had had that before. I think that was a little different focus, but it would have been good. I know a couple of them that we had there, had been to both. I know one of the producers, they had been to both. But at least they supported us enough to come back out, and I give them credit for that, so.
I think some of the ones that needed to be there were not there. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
They had there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of work to get her there. And there was quite a lot of, sort of a registration process for people to attend was pretty, extensive, and
No, I don't think so.
you
Yeah,
didn't think
it
it was
was
bad?
just
It's just a link and
That's
I,
so
You just put your name, and that one I didn't think was hard at all.
Okay,
And then I had, one of those that came, they said, we didn't register, but they know we're farmers and we always attend the farm. I said, I think it'll be fine. And they had the paperwork there that all they had to do, because I had an extra person with us, all I did was write down their name.
okay.
So, I mean, I would hate to think that that would have kept people away, because during this, Tessa we registered for,
The
breakfast,
farmer's
for
breakfast,
farmer's
yeah.
breakfast, so, I just think that's a courtesy thing, so that, because they did have, I will commend the farm center, they had refreshments, and I think, when you're hosting something like that, you don't wanna be short, so kind of knowing what to expect, I have to give them credit for trying to make sure they could accommodate people, so, but I didn't think that was a hard
Okay, good.
process.
Initially, her staff was asking who you are, why you want to, what you're going to bring up. They were asking a lot of questions in the beginning. Maybe that filtered out.
It was optional.
So-
You didn't have to
Okay.
ask a question.
I'm glad that
Yeah.
didn't slow
You did.
anybody down.
Yeah, that was all optional. And I don't see a problem with staff asking those questions. I think if we're asking for, just like we talked about inviting the state executive director to one of our meetings, and we have before, even with Jamie, when he comes, he wants to know, what do you guys want to discuss? What are y'all wanting to talk to me about? What are you needing? That's so they can be prepared.
Sure.
If we don't give them something, and if that meeting was set up and we couldn't say, we want to discuss the farm bill, we want to discuss this, if you can't give her something to be prepared, I think that's common courtesy.
Yep.
And I think that's really what that comes down to. I don't think there's anything, I don't think they were trying to slight anything. I think they were trying to make sure that they could answer the questions that were going to be asked, that they could have what we needed to know in front of us so that there were no issues. And so I don't see a problem with that, but I thought as far as the questions that were asked, I think they were put, if they didn't know the answer, they were willing to get back with them. And on individual basis, you're not gonna know who got reimbursed and what's held up is with this or what the hold up is with that. Those are gonna have to be, let me check on it for you questions. I think with the farm bill and the EPA stuff and a lot of the stuff that's in that big, beautiful bill, a lot of it she didn't get to answer on, but like within the farm bill, there is a component for mental health for farmers. I think that's probably an important thing, as much stress that is on the farming community. And you have several disasters, including the hurricane, you're gonna need some help mentally to get through it, that the mental toughness there. So that's one of the things. The EPA with DEF, I think I know I would. I'm so sick of DEF right now, I could just scream. But every vehicle, every tractor, all of that, that's no fun, I almost wanna go back to my daddy's 1990, tractors, because at least you can just run diesel and go on down the road. But, a lot of those questions, I think she answered them and tried to talk about what would help us as much as she could. So, I don't know, what was your take?
I didn't think she had really much info
Right.
it felt more like session, because she didn't have the information about this stuff, because she's not on, that's not her area necessarily. So it was more, express your concerns, we'll look into it, and we'll try and follow up about it, and follow up with you about it.
And I think they're following up individually. She says she wants to come back and update us. I think she said after everything gets passed, so I don't think we're gonna, I don't think it'll be anytime soon. I wouldn't expect it to be. I think it would be after they see if they get what they're trying to get right now passed, after we see where the farm bill is going, maybe some input there. But I do think, I think they took good notes. I know Will was writing, so I think they took good notes. I know they were listening, so I think there was 4 staffers. I think between the 4 staffers, she had them getting as
3 or
much,
4, yeah.
getting as much information as she could, so.
You gotta keep in mind, she's a freshman up there, and she's still trying to figure her way around what's
Sure.
going on up there too.
And her staff's new to her too, so, there's got to be some give and take there too. But I could understand them trying to ask questions beforehand, and that could explain if we didn't really give anything. If we didn't give anything about what you want to meet about, then there's no way that they could be prepared. There's just no way. She wouldn't know what they were gonna ask if y'all didn't tell her before she got there. So I think that here again, in the future maybe, like Tessa said, maybe that's back on us. If we're supposed to be part of that, what are we going to talk about? Maybe that's back on us, and we say, here are the concerns, here's what we're looking at, here's what we need to know. And then it goes to them, and the meeting can be more productive. Just like I said with Jamie, he always wants to know, what are we focusing on? And when we said, I think the first thing I told him was we wanted him to find a business that supported agriculture. We wanted an ag-supported business. Well, he delivered, we have Mayan. So that's a positive. But I think we, as the ag board, have to give them something to work with if we want answers. I don't think you can just, feel like throwing them to the wolves.
We could have probably prepared, based on all of our district, the document that we came up with after all of our district meetings, we probably could have submitted that to them
And they
ahead of time, so that they could have done a little more research on the back end.
Right. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that that's, if I would have known, I think if any of us would have known, we would have submitted it to them. But we didn't know they were asking for that. But I can understand why they would ask for that. So, note to self, note for the future, we'll do it different next time.
We're just glad she spent time with us and scheduled us in her itinerary. Glad she could come and listen. A lot of people said she listened carefully, and so that's good. She's heard from us, and I know she spoke to the Farm Bureau right before that, so they were invited, and this group was sort of by invitation too. You had to register through that link, so they just wanted to know who was there and who was coming, what the topics were. But I'm glad she came. Moving on to district reports. In District 3, we had Ms. Biggs visit, and I'm, again, sorry I missed it, but I guess that's the big thing in the 3rd district lately. Y'all have any, somebody mentioned they wanted to bring up something, and I said, well, it could work into the district, fit into
Well,
Oh,
the
I'm an
district.
at-large, so I don't represent a district,
Oh,
but I
okay.
would have, I have some stuff,
Okay, well,
if there's no other district report.
anything from y'all?
District 2, 5 and 4 are not here. District 1, pretty much, it was just, I think most of my guys attended the that visit, but then I will tell you the thing that I have heard the most from my district, and I think you will continue to hear it from our area, is the need to work on something for timber. Our timber basket is hurting. We need to find a supportive business for timber. And it's huge, because we have, and Chris did bring this up at the Farm Center meeting to Congresswoman Biggs about the fact that in the small town of Salem, at one time, there were 3 large sawmills, and now there are 0. So, and it's not just the sawmills, you have a number of logging companies that are no longer logging. It's not a good situation, and I know Mountain Rest is kind of in the same boat. So, for districts 1 and 2 on the north side, I would say our focus really is what can we do to support the timber industry.
I mentioned that to Mr. Gilbert today when we talked, and so he's aware. We're looking for a timber industry.
So,
We have so much wood here, and it's just, it hurts me to waste wood or waste anything, but I see beautiful trees that are not getting utilized, so, and they could be if we had the right formula, so. All right, Miss At-Large District, that's a district.
Well, just the Food Council farm tours that the Food Council and Clemson Area Food Exchange sponsored, they went very well. There was a good turnout, and we got good feedback. We sent out feedback to the farms and the people who took the tours, and we got very good feedback. It was successful, so we're gonna plan to do it again next year. We learned a few things, and we're gonna make adjustments accordingly. But we will probably we'll see about either doing the same farms or adding a few farms and just kind of playing around with how we do it. But yeah, it did go well. And then I wanted to raise this as just a topic for us to be aware of and discuss. The county council did a second reading of an ordinance to amend the Conservation Bank Board. And I just made a few points. I read through it, and I talked to a few people who went to the meeting, and so they've added quite a bit to what the Conservation Bank Board money can be used for. So originally, the intent of the money was specified as financially supporting the preservation and conservation of agricultural lands or, wildlife areas when it comes to the ecology. And so it was a way to encourage property owners to leave their land in the state it's in perpetuity, with still being able to perform certain agricultural practices on the land. So the amendments to the ordinance make it a much broader scope that the money can be used for, and a lot more temporary things. So temporary projects would be something like Parks and Rec funding, so additional docks or pathways or upkeep at various parks. It could be used for private landowners to drill wells. It could be used for city, like green space cleanup days. It could be used for a lot of different things under this new ordinance. And NRCS already houses funds for a lot of the stuff they added into this ordinance. So NRCS technically is the entity that you would go to for this pollinator gardens or planting pollinator fields or protecting water spaces in your agricultural land. So to open up the conservation bank, which is really supposed to be a very specific thing, is going to end up diverting a lot of funds. And in the last meeting, the county council voted to send the money that Duke originally donated to the bank back to Duke, because Duke donated the money with a specification that it would be used for conservation easements. So it can't be used in the broader sense. And Duke had signed, after a lot of work, had made a commitment to donate another $1 million to the Conservation Bank Board for conservation easements, which are permanent land easements. So the concern here is that the Conservation Bank is not getting the funding from Duke, because Duke has specified where they want that funding to go if they pass this. And then the concern is that the Conservation Bank will essentially go away, because there will not be funding through the bank to do anything significant. And a lot of the money might be diverted to temporary things that are not for permanent conservation, which is harmful towards agriculture, because we're losing a lot of that land to development. And really, conservation easements are the only permanent way, right, to preserve the land. If the money doesn't go to the Conservation Bank because they passed this ordinance, the money might go to another entity, maybe the Farm Bureau, maybe somewhere else, but that then becomes a state fund. And then all that money that could be in the county is spread across the state. So that's what happened last meeting. The next reading is gonna be on July 15th, which is a public hearing, but that's gonna be their third, I think, and final reading.
Third, yeah, for the bank, and just clarification on the return of the money, the request was for the county attorney to explore how that could be done, not to actually do it. So he's supposed to come back with at least information on how that would work, what that would look like. It wasn't a send it back and done. So there was a conservation easement that was on the agenda for last Tuesday as well. That was also approved to spend another, I think it was 116.
Okay.
That'll draw some of that money down too, which, but that's where that will go. So that's not finalized yet, but that could also be finalized on the 15th. Your meeting is that Monday before that meeting too, your next meeting.
So so is that the only county council meeting that's coming up, or is there
For
another?
so in June and July, there's just gonna be the one meeting of
Okay.
this month. And I think August too, actually.
Okay. And the final budget will be that day as well?
The final budget was last Tuesday.
Was last Tuesday.
So the budget is supposed to be in place for July 1st.
Okay, that's right, June 30th. Okay, got it.
Do we need to draft a letter of some type to support keeping the money as it is, or they've already done 2 readings on it, so?
My stance is, and I'm fine saying it, I mean, my stance, being on the Agricultural Advisory Board, is that we need to defend agriculture and land conservation. And so as an agricultural advisory board, we would advise against opening up the bank to a broader scope, because that's diverting those funds into temporary projects that do not conserve land.
And I would agree with Tessa with that. I would say this. I think we can write all the letters in the world. I think we would better serve our constituents if you spoke at county council and told them your reservation.
We could write something that could be read at the public hearing.
Right. But I think it needs to be verbalized if we're going to do it, is what I was going to say. Because we wrote a letter for the position. It would have been nice just to have heard back from any of the above, including the chairman of that committee, that said, go fly a kite, go take a hike, whatever.
They did not create, the final budget did not give Soil and Water Conservation District another
And staff member.
employee.
So it just fell on deaf ears. That's why I said that. I don't have a problem drafting a letter. That's fine, we can draft them all day long, but
I think it would be more potent if we spoke at the public hearing, if someone spoke at the public hearing. Just to demonstrate that the Ag Board is not in support of broadening the scope because it will divert funds for land conservation.
so Duke's given this money, kind of like whenever, if I can say this public knowledge, like when Walhalla High School got built, and we just, the county disturbed, the school board disturbed a federal wetland. So then they had to go pay, $5 million or how much ever it was several $1 million to somewhere in, Montana, you know, to put back a federal wetland, because we destroyed so much of a federal wetland. So Duke's given us this money, and it's being used in Oconee County to preserve our natural resources because of what they're getting out of our county, which we're getting, we all benefit from jobs and power, I understand all that. But part of the reason that they're doing it is because of regulations with all their plans, with FERC and all of that, that they're being good stewards to give back to Oconee County. If you don't have a way to protect the land that's in Oconee County through this type of funding, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, then when they give it, just like when our school district had to give that money and it went to Montana, I'm like James, I'd rather for it went to the coast of Ducks Unlimited and we could have had, you know, some wetlands. I'm just saying, it's leaving our state.
It's going somewhere.
It's going somewhere out of this county. And I think that's Tessa's point. Whenever Duke, when the county says no, and Duke says, okay, fine, it's going somewhere else. And as a landowner, if you wanted to conserve your land, if you wanted to put it under conservation easement in Oconee County, you've missed your opportunity, because now you've got to go in the same pot, if it goes to Upstate Forever, with everybody else. You go in that pot. And they may rather, you know, keep a farm in Pickens County, or keep this land in Greenwood or something else, as opposed to like the $100,000 and whatever that got put toward a conservation easement for a farm in Oconee County. So, if Duke's willing to give another $1 million, I don't see giving back anything. As residents of this county, we're the ones that, you know, it deserves to stay in this county, is my point. I mean, we all live here. We all know the risk we have with having that power plant. They should provide $1 million, but it should stay in this county. And making decisions that allow them to send it other places, I don't think that's a good idea.
If y'all will help me with the wording in the background, this is pretty new to me, and I've paid attention to the Conservation Bank, trying to see how we could fund them through other methods. I didn't know Duke had done this, but to give money back, this given for a purpose to give it back is, you know, we try so hard to gain money and gain support, and then here it is, and then to give it back, this doesn't make sense, and especially since it goes to another area.
Well, it would go, I think what Tessa's point is, it would go into probably a statewide bank. They would try to find like Farm Bureau, and we already know that, you know, a lot of that land is not coming to Oconee County. A lot of that conservation bank is not coming to Oconee County. It's going across the state, because it's a statewide bank. The South Carolina Land Trust is a statewide land trust.
Which we want the state
We want
to be
this-
conserved,
yes.
but Duke is in Oconee County, and that money ideally would be going towards Oconee County conservation of natural resources.
Sure, yeah.
Because Oconee County and Oconee County residents are the ones paying the price, so therefore we should get more than other areas of the state. And
Absolutely.
that $1 million would get spread, it could go Colleton County, Darlington, it could go anywhere in our county, in our state. And that's great, but we're the ones that day in and day out take the risk for Duke Power being in our backyard.
I agree.
That money, James, it's specified because of what it is. It is specified for a very specific thing.
The impact is in Oconee County.
And the money that
And-
would be donated, it is very specific what it's for.
So it's in the original licensing agreement, which I have not read the original licensing agreement from 20 years ago, but yes.
So they cannot give it to the Conservation Bank if the Conservation Bank has been opened up to broader specifications. So the choice to open up, to amend it, and to add these other things is,
And I think everybody's still exploring that part of it and what the implications are. I think that is still ongoing with, Duke was here Tuesday.
okay.
There's a lot of public here, council attorneys, so I think all of that I think this is still a little bit fluid. I don't know where it's gonna end up.
So do you think I understand we didn't get soil and water additional person, but all those other line items are still there, correct? Y'all didn't get cut, the other,
For personnel,
right,
I don't think there were any new additions for any new positions across the county. I
But we
think
have-
all the positions that existed still exist.
still exists, so
Yes.
those open positions are still there, that was my
Yes.
question.
Yes.
So there is a possibility that you could still reallocate some funding throughout the year if it was at the administrator and council's will,
Potentially,
potentially.
yes.
So, if that ordinance states they're looking to do pollinator gardens,
There's a lot in here, and they've got a section where they have highlighted what the additions are to the ordinance.
I guess my point with that is, Tessa, what I'm thinking is, if we're gonna speak, if you're gonna speak, we need to have answers of where those,
So number 2 is water quality improvements, which is something NRCS already does.
correct, and that's part of soil and water. See, I'm going back to if you would fund that person, then we could open up the programs that would help with water quality, education, funding, et cetera, that there wouldn't be a need to change your ordinance.
Public access and recreational infrastructure.
Public access and recreational infrastructure to what area? Because, I know that state parks, like that would be my question, where are they talking about doing that? Because, they're already working on more access at Devil's Fork, they're already working on more access, the state is, like even, which is not our county, but Topsail got more access.
Eligible activities include improvement or creation of hiking and biking trails, boat landings, fishing piers, picnic areas, campgrounds, which none of this is actively conservation.
Right, but some of that is already happening through Duke with the plan, like at Fall Creek, they're already looking at doing. I guess what I'm thinking is a lot of that's already being taken care of.
Sustainable private water infrastructure.
Is that the funding that they're wanting to come back into this?
Potentially. So this is the
all
broadening
for the
of
conservation bank.
what the bank would be able to do.
This is all stuff that the bank money can be used for. Drilling private wells. Rehabilitation or upgrade of existing private wells and associated infrastructure improvements to secure independent water access for properties.
I'm confused now because my understanding is a lot of that already had to go through PRTA under that, I need to look that up, under that other plan. I'm confused now. I was thinking whales and pollinator gardens, and the answer is NRCS and soil and water because they do 90% of that already. So if OCCB, if there was a separate pot of money for that and you left conservation alone, because who has to inspect those easements is soil and water. Like, they'll have to inspect that easement, cause it's two different easements coming together. Then you have a justification for someone, and you can, a lot of that funding though, that they're needing there for those wells and that type of stuff, like you said, that comes through NRCS. The private water, those types of things comes through, soil and water and NRCS and watershed district. I'm confused. Does our council realize what their watershed does? I'm
I'm not sure the intent of this is to preserve the conservation bank. I think it's purposeful. It's just a very broad thing that's gonna make it very difficult for real permanent conservation to happen. Cause there's a lot of things you can do under the new amendments, the proposed amendments.
I'm confused.
It's very broad, yes, it's,
That was just two, and those are the two most concerning. But there's other additional ones. And some of them aren't bad. I mean, they wanna do, here's the habitat restoration projects. But it could be anything like they could designate, it's just broad. So it's not necessarily permanent fixes for things. It could be a creek cleanup or something that just puts a Band-Aid on the problem. Whereas an easement is in perpetuity.
So I guess my question is, are they trying to find a way to help fix some of, like, they have good intentions to help clean up some of the waterways issues, but there's already funding for that if they know where to go find it. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. They've probably had people come to them, and those people don't know. And this goes back to what we were talking about again, with those offices being accessible to our public, for them to know where to go get the funding and to get the help. Here again, we don't have staff up there, so, it's a catch-22 and a revolving door. How do you fix it? But as far as, I guess the first thing we need is a motion to, have something to present July 15th at the county council meeting, if that's the way we're going, and then we can have it finalized the night before, because we will meet, and then
That
we'll have our
Monday.
plan.
sounds like a motion, sounds good. Yeah, we do need to talk to them about that. So,
If anything, just to support the agricultural community as to what the conservation bank was originally
It's
designated
intended,
for.
right.
What it was intended to do.
And the fact that it needs to stay in those funds, because I know Duke helps the surrounding counties, but that Oconee Nuclear is exactly that. Oconee Nuclear Station. It's in Oconee County, South Carolina. Therefore, that $1 million, that impact to our residents needs to stay in our county, period.
That would be part of it.
That was right. And the statement that needs to be said.
Are you making the motion? Do we have a motion for Nathan to write down?
We're close, we're getting close, we're thinking of how to word it. Something to the effect that we need to put our thoughts together to present them to county council on July 17th.
So, a motion to, draft a letter to be read at county council.
In support of the Duke Fund staying.
In the county for conservation easements.
Be easy on the secretary over
Hold
here.
on.
We're gonna try to keep it simple.
Read at the county council,
Meeting July 15th.
Put our thoughts into a letter to present July 17th, something like that.
okay.
So,
Let me make sure, draft a letter to be read at the county council meeting July 15th, and what do you want to say inside the letter, just a full idea?
in support of the Conservation Bank and the money staying in.
In support of the conservation bank funds being used for conservation easements.
For the preservation of agricultural lands in Oconee County.
So it would say something like, put together a letter to support conservation of Oconee lands, to be presented to the council, 17th of July,
Agricultural.
15th of July.
We are the
Do
agricultural.
you have it, Nathan? Do you wanna read it?
Yes, draft a letter to be read at the county council meeting July 15th in support of the conservation fund,
Conservation bank.
bank fund being used for the preservation of agricultural land in Oconee County.
Correct.
Okay,
I second that motion.
okay.
So I guess I made the initial, or Kim made the initial, I'm not sure, but we were drafting it up and it got,
You
So-
can make it.
so, I'll make the motion that we do what is written, and Tessa seconded it. Or Kim can make the motion, it doesn't matter, I'm not, it doesn't matter, just,
We just need to.
we
say
need
we're
a
all-
motion and a second.
Got it, and we're all in favor.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I think we've discussed it pretty well. This is kind of, I didn't know anything about this until I read a little article in the paper this morning next to Mr. Halbig's announcement. And that's the first I've heard about it. So, motion, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. And any opposed? None. So, segue, it was, I mentioned beside the little article welcoming Mr. Ed Halbig to our planning, as new planning director. Mr. Coley's unfortunately leaving us, take another position in another state. He's done a great job, and we sure do miss him. We'll miss him. But we welcome Mr. Ed Halbig also to come in, and he's not new to the county, so we'll be looking forward to working with Ed. And, thanks, James, for all you've done. You've helped us a great deal. Welcome, Ed. I think y'all have all met Ed before the meeting, so.
I would like to thank Elise for stepping in when we just throw her to the wolves so many times. She stepped in and took care of the minutes, sent stuff for us. Thank you. I know you have a lot on your plate, but thank you.
Thanks for keeping us, the agenda and the backup material, and keeping us on schedule. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Well, It's 7 o'clock. Do we have a motion to adjourn or anything else we left out?
I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.